How's it going, everybody? I'm Sam Lee, reading for writer Zach Barbieri, and welcome to Gaming Instinct's review of Deathloop. Arcane Lion's Deathloop is a bizarre mashup of multiple genres. On the one hand, it has the gun collecting and power buffing you might expect of a looter shooter game, and yet, it is definitely not a looter shooter. On the other hand, it has the repetition and mechanic mastery of a roguelike title, while yet again, not falling wholly into that category either. By mixing these two genres together, however, adding a dash of shoot-'em-up mayhem and stealth action, and wrapping it up all in a blaxploitation 70s style, what Deathloop becomes is one of the most unforgettable shooters in recent memory. Defying easy definition, this title represents just the type of shakeup the first-person shooter genre has needed in recent years, creating a satisfying gameplay loop that keeps inviting you back again and again. And yes, the pun was intended. Deathloop didn't need a strong story to sell me on it. All I needed was to jump in and start ducking and dodging bullets to know I was going to enjoy my time on the island of Blackreef. Color me shocked then when I found out that I actually liked the story more than I thought I would. A lot more, in fact. Here's what you need to know. Your character, Colt, is stuck in a time loop, and the only way to break it is to murder 8 people known as the Visionaries during a single sequence. To do this, you're going to have to do your best Bill Murray impression and relive the same day over and over again as you slowly piece together just who your enemies are and how you can take them down. Each of these people is trapped in a loop of their own, reliving the same day and doing the same thing as well. The player's job then is to figure out just what events during the course of the day will put these characters in the right place at the right time to actually complete the loop in one perfect run. To figure this out, you actually have to, and this is going to sound crazy, learn who your enemies actually are. And this is one way Deathloop is set apart from most similar titles. You see, most games have collectible documents and audio files in them to help flesh out the world. Usually these pickups are optional, and while in Deathloop many are as well, a lot of them add more than just lore. You never know when the right piece of information will give you the right lead to follow. Of course, on any run through the loop, you can just go after these people directly. While there is value in that, getting wrapped up in your enemy's individual sub-stories is incredibly rewarding. One of the Visionaries in particular, Juliana, is not just sitting around hoping that Colt doesn't show up. On the contrary, she's actively hunting him down. Of course, killing Colt doesn't end his quest as it simply resets the loop. But for the player that might be controlling her to invade your game, it will sure feel satisfying to end his run. The banter between Juliana and Colt manages to be some of the most entertaining in a game of recent memory. A strong antagonist always manages to elevate a game's story beyond whatever limitations it might have, and Juliana will most likely stand the test of time as one of the best in recent memory in terms of both the mechanics of her gameplay and within the overall story arc. Of course, expect some limitations in the story. You will be doing the same things over and over and over, and for good measure, all over again. Does this sentiment sound repetitive? Good, because that is how the game can feel at times. Once you piece together parts of the narrative and have plotted out how to kill your targets, you're left with a game that retreads the same beats. If you're enjoying the experience, then you have nothing to worry about, but it is very noticeable. Running the same instance within the same setup can wear thin at times. There's a thin line between the excitement of rushing into the next loop and one loop too many. Right off the bat, Deathloop throws its personality right in your face. The main menu for the game features lead characters Colt and Juliana diving at each other before zooming into their guns, offering you the choice to break the loop or protect the loop. The player makes their choice by selecting their chosen gun, and it shoots, sending them to the island of Blackreef. There are many games that commit to their stylization in the way that Deathloop does, and this definitely adds to its charm even when the novelty of the loop starts to wear thin. As even the game box cover presents, Deathloop draws heavily from the grindhouse era of films, with a special emphasis on the blaxploitation subgenre that is fully deployed through the main characters. Colt is presented as a good guy who can be a little slow in the uptake, which brings classic film characters like Dolomite and Shaft to mind. On the other hand, Juliana feels like an homage to any number of roles Pam Grier took up during the 70s. The funky, stylistic lens is applied to any number of the other aspects of the title as well. The over-the-top brutal takedowns, bombastic big bads, and waves of enemies you have to mow your way through are all emblematic of the exploitation genre. If anything, Deathloop conjures back an earlier Bethesda-produced game, Wet. Except, now they have finally nailed the feeling of jumping straight into Quentin Tarantino's childhood. The strong art direction helps to excuse some poor animation and character models, as basic enemies all will look like plastic dolls that you are breaking. This might be a AAA game, but like the film genres that inspired it, Deathloop is seemingly aiming for a low-budget vibe. The game is all the polish you would expect, but there are a lot of minor gripes I could lodge. One is the stealth kill animations, which include bizarre neck snaps and loose machete animations. It is hard to tell if these are just things the company could not get right, or a conscious choice the studio made, but at their worst they feel like a poor film edit, which, ironically, one would expect a lot of in grindhouse movies. Music also plays a large part in the game, in the best way. Not only does the score set audio cues from the aforementioned era, but it also factors heavily into the multiplayer quite nicely. You can always tell your game is being invaded by the music shift, which helps tighten the tension for the showdown to come. The soundscape draws heavily from the classic 60s and 70s spy movies, which is another major influence on the game, to heighten the action and raise the intensity of the sneaking sections. Expect plenty of ambience too, as the music on offer sets the world as one that is living and breathing, and not just an action set piece. Colt will have multiple tools at his disposal throughout his adventure, but the most important of course will be guns, and, you guessed it, more guns. Players get to build a collection of these as the game progresses, and thankfully, they do not have to be constantly relocated to be used during subsequent runs. Guns come in different grades, and higher grades can see them become less prone to jamming, as well as allowing for larger clips and perks that improve your chances of survival. My personal favorite was a Raptor that came equipped with explosive rounds, though I also found a Limp 10 that healed me with every shot I landed that often found its way into my loadout. Weapons can also have add-ons called trinkets that can be attached for even more of an edge. Deathloop begins to feel close to another arcane title, Dishonored, with the slap powers that Cole will earn as he runs through the loop. These powers range from going invisible to linking enemies together so you can kill groups in quick succession. The slap powers really do change the way you approach your targets. A slap called Shift, for instance, will allow you to teleport a short distance and make taking the high ground a piece of cake, while Aether, which turns you invisible, makes it easy to slip past guards on the low ground and enter places that might be harder to without it. This further expands your ability to play how you want, and offers multiple points to switch loadouts in a day, allowing you to go after targets in whatever way you feel comfortable. The biggest selling point to Deathloop for me was the constant struggle between Colt and Juliana, the multiplayer component to the game. While these moments can be fun, they also serve to annoy the hell out of you. Juliana can invade your game at any moment, meaning that moment could be after you just stealth your way into position to kill your target amidst tons of guards. A fantastic run can then be turned into a desperate fight to stay alive, because as soon as Juliana shoots at Colt, every enemy is alerted to his exact position. You can't really blame your opponent for dropping in at inopportune times, but this became insanely annoying while I was hunting trophies that require some time waited on the map, or when I was setting up a kill that required me to wait for the exact right moment. It's never fun to sit for 5 minutes waiting for a character to position themselves just right, only to see Juliana is on the hunt appear. This potential frustration is only compounded by the fact that Juliana levels up far faster than Colt. While players might have to run through the loop a few times as Colt to acquire abilities and guns that are semi-decent, Juliana will earn them within 3 invasions or so, even if she ends up ultimately losing all 3. Sure, Juliana has only 1 life compared to Colt having a multi-life function, but her ability to alert every enemy, coupled with her superior arsenal, means that players only have to stomach being ineffective with Juliana for a minuscule amount of time until she seems to have the upper hand in most multiplayer battles. I couldn't tell if it is a component of the multiplayer to pit players of similar gear or skill against one another, or there's a potential option to enable something akin to that, but I definitely felt overpowered by enemy players in my first few matches. Ultimately, I made the late game decision to switch to single player only mode, which removes the live player option for Juliana's invasions and replaces her with an AI. Deathloop, like most of the films it draws from, is not perfect. But what it gets right in its repetition is the zany, over-the-top nature that the Grindhouse was known for. Memorable moments will be abound as you unleash your powers to take down the visionaries or invade someone else's loop. The art style and direction of the title managed to overcome every issue present, though I would argue those issues are nothing too major in the first place. Tight gunplay and well-designed levels also make the exploration of each stage, as you try to learn all the ways you can tackle the challenge before you, all the more fun as well. Deathloop's limitations present in how often you will have to repeat events to complete certain tasks. Sadly, these moments don't change much, meaning that once you have worked out the secret sauce to handle a situation, it might lose its luster. All issues aside though, Black Reef is definitely the place to be. Gaming Instincts gives Deathloop a score of 8.5 out of 10. And that concludes Gaming Instincts' review of Deathloop. To see more videos and reviews in the future, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. This has been Sam Lee, and until next time.